Viewers, the world today witnessed one of the biggest digital shutdowns ever. Millions around the globe were hit after massive IT outage. Microsoft software was impacted by a cybersecurity system error. From air travel to banking, to global stock exchanges, to telecom companies, operations and services were severely hit. CrowdStrike, which provides anti-cyber attack services to Microsoft, categorically specified that it is not a security incident or a cyber attack. The security system's CEO has said that the issue's been isolated and a fix has been deployed. He's apologized also for the outage's impact on customers, adding that some systems could take time to recover. Indians were also hit by the massive worldwide IT outage. Almost all Indian carriers, Vistara, Indigo, SpiceJet and Akasa Air battled technical issues which affected booking, check-in and flight updates. At some airports, boarding passes had to be issued manually, and Times Now even spoke to the passengers who were inconvenienced by this outage.
We have not received so far. So far there has been no.
Yeah, I know there's some Microsoft problem, but we haven't.
That's for the SpiceJet. They have not informed.
Well, have you basically got any communication from your airline that there will be any disruption in service?
For now, no, I don't have any update. Let's see what happens inside now.
The system is not working, it's very slow, and the only thing they are telling like this, the system is very slow. There are few passengers who have to go to other connecting flights.
I think, like me, all the other passengers are also in the similar shoe. What I have been told is that it's a system error experienced throughout the world, not just Delhi. Yes. Of course, there is no way to verify, but I hope that is true. It's a system failure and everything is being administered manually.
Times Now track the turbulence at different airports and catch these glimpses of how the outage impacted airports across India.
Several servers are down, and in fact Delhi Airport Terminal 3, from where we are reporting, is also impacted. You can see the several screens showing blue. In fact, here it's written recovery. It looks like Windows didn't load correctly. If you would like to restart your PC again, restart my PC, and all the instructions are given so as to restart your system.
At present, I'm reporting from the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport, basically the Mumbai Airport. You can see the queues outside different gates at Mumbai Airport are long today. Usually, such long queues are not to be seen. If at all there is no communication from the airlines, they have to come to the airport. The queues will be long, but manual check-ins are happening inside.
The entire airport has slowed down with several minutes because entire system has shifted to manual. Starting from issuing boarding pass to checking in, everything has been shifted to manual. The DG Yatra apps, the machines that has been installed outside the airport to ensure that the process is faster, that has stopped working.
Queue at the departure gate right behind the camera person. I'll ask him to show the departure gate. That's the departure gate right there, and people are just coming and leaving this particular spot, disturbed by the nuisance that has been created by the server issue here.
Bengaluru Airport, where we are speaking to many passengers. They are claiming, the flights have also been cancelled. Also, certain flights have been delayed. And let me take you across this departure and the inquiry counters, in fact, where you can see people queued up literally to check their flight timing.
And amidst this outage, now the focus has shifted to finding long-term solutions to this issue. Former IT Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar has said that now the world must work on fail-safe and resilient software alternatives.
It's a black swan event in the area of technology, and we are seeing it unfold in front of us, disrupting the lives of many millions of people, businesses all around the country and in the world. So maybe it is time now for companies to ask the question whether they need to diversify their enterprise software. Maybe there is a need now for us to start specifying standards on fail-safe designs, redundancy, resilience.
IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has said that the government is in touch with Microsoft to resolve the issue and that the reason for this outage has been identified.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
It's an outage that has, in fact, across geographies, across sectors, had a huge impact on businesses. And to talk about that, we have with us partner of Iron Capital and somebody who has worked very closely with tech giant Infosys, Mohandas Pai, joining us this evening. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Times Now. And let me begin by asking you, in terms of the impact, what does this blue screen of death really mean? What is the impact you see it has had? Is it confirmed that this is some kind of an attack? And what kind of business losses are we potentially looking at?
Look, this is what happens if everybody is on the same network globally. You have one vendor or one person who gives you the network and provides you the services, and something goes wrong at their side. What we hear from Microsoft is that Azure is up and running, but there's another company called Crowd which has put up a patch, and the patch seems to have malfunctioned, there's a bug on the patch, and that has stopped everybody from accessing Azure, accessing their database, and that has broken down the system all over. What we hear is that Microsoft has fixed the problem, and that other company which is providing this kind of a patch and security has said that they identified the problem, they're fixing the patch. The impact is because it's impacted everybody around the world, because large number of people are on Azure. The global airlines are Azure, bank and financial service on Azure. So everything has come to a standstill because this patch is making their software malfunction, and they're not able to access the system or to work. It shows that when you have a global monopoly, much of the world is on one single platform or one single cloud, somewhere else, and that cloud changes as impacted by some new software bug or a software development that happens or a patch that happens. Everything comes to a standstill. And this one big global event which was not seen for a long time. I don't remember any such other global event where such a thing has happened. It could happen because they did not take proper precautions for the patch. It could happen because the patch was not properly tested. It could happen because they wrote the wrong cloud. Or it happened because they probably did not upload it properly. Whatever it is, I think the impact is there. Banking transactions, from what we hear, has come down. Airlines are all shut up, and people are not able to access their screens. We hear that NSE and BSE are working well. We hear that people who are on, who are on Apple products or who are on open systems are able to do the work. And the problem is because of Microsoft Azure. But Microsoft Azure is a very, very big player on the world. They could be having 25–30% of the cloud infrastructure on the world. And so everybody in the world is now understanding what it means to be on one single network. And if it's compromised, what happens?
Absolutely. So do you see this going forward, big businesses, particularly critical industries like healthcare, aviation, banking, etc., building in more redundancies, bringing in other operating systems to diversify the risk of such kind of events taking place?
Well, it's difficult to diversify because Azure is such a large player with a large market share and it's got great technology. It's the failure of Azure to make sure that anything on the system is properly tested and properly configured before coming live for people. There seems to be some laxity. What could happen is everybody should put their heads together to find out if such an event happens, how they can break from the network and operate on their own, so that they can carry on the transaction without getting impacted by something that has happened, or how they can reverse this kind of a patch that is going. That means the implementation of new software and new patches and new versions should be staggered and should be done very differently, not in a centralized manner as it happened in the back end. And I think, remember last time when India had a big power crisis where the whole network came to a standstill, India came out with a strategy of what is called islanding. Islanding for the power system means that your particular place like Delhi or Bombay is shut off from the rest of the system and doesn't get impacted by the rest. Otherwise, the entire network gets impacted. So we need to look at new global architectures which can step in case such a crisis happens. So the network, separate operating systems can come up in many areas. For example, the airline system could have come up very separately from the banking system, etc. Or the airline checking system could have happened so people can still take their flights and go, and possibly data can be stored. So this is a major problem. It happens because there are emerging global monopolies. And the global monopolies are very big. And if something goes wrong, all of us are doomed. So we must be very careful. We must rethink the way these global networks are created in future.
And do you think that this is really one of the key takeaways in terms of Atmanirbharta, in terms of the self-reliance that we've been seeing of our own industry and our own push back home domestically? Do you think that this is a very important case? Because we've seen, for instance, social media space, there have been various startups that have been launched with a lot of fanfare, but they've not been pushed through. This event, you think, is going to change that thinking?
Well, I think what should change our thinking is we must not be dependent on one large system globally for everybody. Two, we must have disparate systems which talk to each other. And in case of any damage, there is resilience that the systems can detach from the network and start operating independently. So the great majority of the work can be done, the data can be stored and updated later. So it's an architectural issue, it's a system issue, it's a design issue which we have to think. Now whether we are going to get our own cloud, we're going to get something is a very different thing. For example, if you have an Indian cloud working in India with 30%, 40% market share, and something like this happen, we are going to be impacted. It so happened that everything is linked to the globe and it happened. But if you have a large player in India and that player's impact is going to happen. So we got to work out a different thing. Atmanirbharta means how do you build in resilience? How do you build in safeguards? How do you build in fallbacks in case something happens? Remember, for the stock exchanges, they have a fully redundant, fully running system which can be switched on in case the main system is impacted, right? So we got to work out redundancy like this, resilience like this in the system. But all of us globally have to come together and work out particular systems. It can't be done overnight. It's a long haul.
Interestingly, Russia's Digital Communications Ministry has said that airlines and banks in their country didn't appear to have been impacted by the widespread Microsoft outage and boasted of Moscow's measures against Western sanctions as a shield from the digital disarray. Do you think that Asian countries also can possibly follow suit?
Well, we could see what are critical for us and how do we isolate ourselves in case something happens. For example, China has got the firewall. The Chinese are not impacted because all the systems are within the country. It's not very global. Russia has got its firewall. The West is not dealing with them. They're not impacted. Now, India can have a firewall for many things. Or India can have systems which are localized and kept here. And it's very important. For example, I think we should have our data centers for all operations located in India. And we should have a protocol for new patches and new things that comes on India in a very staggered manner, so that something goes wrong in New York, something goes wrong everywhere, we will not be impacted. We can be isolated for the period that it takes to set that right. So the question of architecture and design, as far as I see, is a question of process, is a question of one single mistake somewhere impacting everybody. How do you isolate that? How do you make sure that things don't happen? We have to put our minds together and work. And also, is the question of how global monopolies are becoming so big all over that anything going wrong with them threatens everybody. That is the big challenge. Because when you have fewer players, when you're part of one big network and the network can be compromised, everything comes down. Earlier, the networks were not so big. They were not so global, right? Now everything is coming because of the cloud. Earlier, there's no one single cloud where everybody was there with one single vendor. And one single vendor operates the back end to put in patches and other kinds of software. Now that back end software impacts everybody around the world. Maybe the patch should have impacted only certain countries and then slowly done. They did it all together. That again is a design issue.
Right. So, that takes me to the next question. Are we relying too much on cloud computing because it was the next big thing seen about a decade and a half ago, if I'm not mistaken? Now, do you think the limitations of cloud computing have come to the fore?
I think it's the limitation of one vendor becoming very big, not cloud computing. Cloud computing is a technology. There can be 10 different vendors, right?
Right.
We got one vendor, and that vendor is impacted. That is the problem.
Right.
If the different vendors, they're fail-safe, they're kept in the country itself, we can manage it, will not be impacted so much. So the question is the network and consolidation of cloud power in 2 or 3 people. That is the big question globally.
Right. What do you see in terms of the economic impact of this event, sir?
Well, if banking transactions are not come to a standstill for one day, is an impact. For example, Indigo has a turnover of 17,000 crores a quarter, if I'm right. That's nearly 200 crores per day. So if Indigo has lost a business of 150 crores in one day because the whole systems are down, that's the impact. So you know the loss of revenues for all of them. For the consumers, the loss of the time and connection, somebody has to calculate, but the losses on a daily basis are very huge because we're so dependent on IT systems for all this. Anything at the back end shutting down impacts everybody. So we got to, again and again I'm emphasizing, it's a network problem because the global networks are in the hands of few. We have to make it in the hands of many, and we must build in redundancy. We must build in system where we can self-isolate ourselves and work within the confines of a particular system in case of need.
Right. You've, of course, mentioned the need for a change of monopoly, of the need for the many vendors, about how, in fact, the architecture has to change. But there's a larger question that comes out of this, is that are we too dependent on technology today? Because we've seen, for instance, in the West, even entire channels, news channels, media channels crash, not completely go off air. The larger question is whether we are over-reliant on technology also, would you say?
Yes. Yes. Of course, we are over-reliant on technology. We are dumbed down a lot, and everything is in the back-end technology. Something goes wrong, we're all doomed. Absolutely. But does it mean we don't need technology? No, it doesn't mean we don't need technology. We need technology. It's very good for us, improves productivity. But we need technology which has got strong resilience. We don't need one single network which can be compromised. And that is an architectural issue. It only shows consolidation of cloud power or technology power in hands of a few, compromises made because of shoddy maintenance and shoddy upgradation, and the threats of terrorist violence. Just imagine if a terrorist network using AI gets into controlling the cloud architecture of a major player, what happens to everybody? Right? You can bring down an entire country, bring down an entire world. The entire world can be bring down by a terrorist attack on one single source. Now that also is something that we have to work at to make sure that there's no one single source which can be brought down and which can destroy everything. And that is what is come because of the back-end cloud.
Well, very, very scary doomsday Terminator type of scenario that you're painting for us, Mr. Mohandas Pai. We certainly hope that doesn't happen, but it is a distinct possibility if we don't judiciously use the technology that we have. I think that's the larger message coming out of our conversation here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this evening. Thanks so much.
Yes.